let me move on now to stay on time to a couple of people from a company called Engineering Group. That's Marco Cortella. You are data visualization specialist for Engineering Group, and Davide Vernassa, your UI designer. I had to look that up, user interface designer. And what we're talking about here is how do you take this data and visualize it on this thing? How do you, on this area, I mean, here's the camera. How do you do that? And so the issues and the best practices for the public sector on visualizing things on mobile devices. So I'll hand it off to both of you guys, and take it away.
Thank you, Chris, for the introduction. Okay, we can start with the presentation. Hi, everybody, and thanks. We can start with the first slide, please. Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining us for this presentation on data visualization on mobile. My name is Marco Cortella, and I'm a BI and data visualization specialist.
Hi, everybody, I'm Davide Vernassa. As Christel, I'm a user interface designer and front-end developer.
We both work for Knowage Labs, a team inside Engineering Informatica that is an Italian IT company. Next slide, please. In the case study that we will see was developed with an open source suite of business intelligence and data visualization called Knowage that recently reached version 8. Next. So during the pandemic, one of our clients, an Italian region, asked us to address some specific needs, have a fast and easy way to monitor some trends and indicators related to the health emergency directly from mobile devices. So as you know, data played a key role for the entire political decision-making process. So it was very important to access the information timely for decision makers who are always on the move and don't always have access to a desktop device. Next. In general, the access of information for mobile devices is becoming more and more important for all kinds of users. As you can see from this data, the global website traffic from mobile has already surpassed the one from desktop, and is also in an increasing trend. In some emerging countries, mobile first represent also the majority of the online population. This trend makes us understand that probably we are already late in thinking an optimal approach for data visualization. So we would like to present our studies and our consideration for using data visualization in a mobile context, and maybe start a discussion in the data visualization community. Next, please. Almost all the dashboards present during the pandemic, as you can see in this example, were designed with the intention of being used by desktop devices. We can see how they've been designed to be multifocus, so with the ability to view multiple indicator visualization at the same time, and also have different ways to interact and filter. Next. Unluckily, the same dashboard were only partially accessible or easy to use through mobile devices. This fact was also described in an article by Matteo Moretti, that is also a speaker today, on Nightingale, the magazine of Data Visualization Society. And this is not only a cosmetic issue, but this is a problem because itself could potentially prevent some people from accessing important information. And we know that during a pandemic, information could also help to save lives. Next. Let's do a step back. As you probably know, there are two main types of analysis in data visualization. So we have the exploratory, where there is a direct relationship with the data, so with the possibility of interaction and filters, so for example in dashboard. So the user can build his own story based on the navigation path. And there is the explanatory, so the data has been already analyzed and is presented with a predefined path to the user. So the story is the same and is unique, and it starts from a point A to get to a point B. On mobile, we saw that the explanatory approach can be used very efficiently as little or no interaction is required. We saw some very effective example from this paper, but we cannot say the same for the explorative approach. Next. An example of an explanatory approach that managed to be effective even from mobile is the scrollytelling. In this case, the data and the visualization are presented in a predefined order, so one step at a time, with accompanying text, and requiring just the user to simply scroll with the finger. Next.
Okay. Next. Okay. As Marco has shown in his examples, the few mobile visualizations can be
Davide, just before you start, I just want to remind people. That they can put their questions in and network via swap card, and we would like to get to your questions this time if we can. So go ahead, David.
Thank you. So the few mobile visualization that Marco said can be related to the many differences between those two devices' world. So we started confronting those different worlds that seem very far away from each other, and we tried to split those differences into the categories we found out. Next. First of all, we started to highlight the different possible interactions. In one case, we can use two different and very precise tools, mouse and keyboard, that allows us to select and click very small elements. They also have some hidden shortcuts, for example, the right mouse button. On mobile as well, we have many different interactions, like the tap, pinch to zoom, etc. Every one of those has some function, but except for the tap, we are talking about many hidden interactions based on shared usage patterns. We cannot teach a new pattern to our user, so our task will focus on studying the best shared pattern for us. Next. The device itself, as well, is a big constraint to our visualization. Different dimensions make the space management a critical aspect in the mobile approach. We cannot fit all the desktop content in a mobile device without some compromise. We need to choose our priorities and optimize what we have got. The hidden interaction we talked about earlier are now extremely important to save some space, or at least to organize it better. Instead of showing all menus, filters, and buttons like in desktop mode, on mobile, we should hide some of them, prioritizing the vertical dimension and creating a structure based on our elements' importance. Next. And let's go lastly to one of the most hidden but important differences. The desktop does allow a multifocus approach, where our brain, visualizing everything at once, finds the information association from the whole picture. On smaller devices, we cannot give the user all the information at once. We need to give the user a single focus at a time. A page will show some information. The following one will show something else, or will go further in detail. But the user will be able to retrieve the same information as a whole picture, with one focus at a time. To you, Marco. Next.
Next, please. So how we can use data visualization on a mobile in a way that is effective? There are multiple approaches that we will describe briefly. Next one. So the better approach for sure is to start from a mobile first point of view and usage. So the desktop version will be easier to adapt, maybe just resulting in a larger version of the same data visualization, and will be sure to fulfill the user expectation. But in some cases, it's not important to consider the desktop variant, maybe because the data visualization will be just inserted into a native application and is not needed to be adapted to a larger device. We call this a mobile-only approach. So in both mobile-first and mobile-only approach, you will start designing your data visualization with the mobile device in mind. But in the first case, you still need to consider a desktop usage maybe as a secondary and less important option. Next. A second approach, and probably the most used nowadays, is the responsive layout. In this case, the data visualization is the same for both mobile and desktop, but will adapt the content, usually changing the element order, the dimension, and showing or hiding unnecessary ones. So the content will be scaled depending on the so-called breakpoints. Breakpoints are points where content responds according to the device resolution, allowing you to show the best possible layout to the user. But this is usually an easy to implement solution, but not always the original message of the data visualization is retained from a larger version to a smaller one, as noted in this cited paper that focuses on these aspects. Next. A more sophisticated approach is the adaptive layout. In this case, we use different charts for different devices. So this is an option that is preferred when a specific visualization needs a particular dimension to be meaningful, and maybe just rescaling it will lose some of the information. So to fix it, a different visualization will be used to avoid the missing parts. Of course, this is a solution that could require more time to be developed for specific versions. Okay. So when the visualization is too complex to be meaningful on small devices, it's still possible to start from the desktop version and use a picture or a video to show it in the mobile version. Of course, the interaction and some information will not be available in the same way, but a static representation could have some way. It can also be used as a link to the original results to be viewed on desktop. So this is a solution that will require less time to be developed, but can be used when interaction from mobile isn't required. Next to Davide.
Okay, thank you. We can go next. We'll try to run a bit. Okay, next again, please. This is our approach. Our customer asked specifically for a mobile solution. The interest was in a web app, easy and quick to open and to read. So our solution was using a mobile-first approach. To enhance the usage, we provided a progressive web app access and the possibility to install the web app on the device. Progressive web apps are a cool solution that allows the developer to create a web application that behaves like a native application, allowing a wider control than a simple web app. Next, please. And here we get to the orientation problem. Mobile devices have two different orientations, landscape and portrait. The portrait allows us to use the device with just one hand and access easily to the scroll, to the swipe, while the landscape requires two hands for a plenty interaction, but maximizes the horizontal space. In our case, the main visualization was of a specific line chart, being the time a very important axis in our presentation. The problem is that the line chart is not meaningful in a portrait orientation because it's difficult to understand its patterns. We use the progressive web app technology again to set a specific landscape orientation to the user in order to keep the line chart meaningful and allow more horizontal space. Next, please. The problem with the landscape orientation is that the vertical space is very low. Some of that is also occupied by the URL bar and the status bar. Using the progressive web app manifest, we set the layout first to standalone, and then we switch it to the full screen in order to avoid the URL bar to appear when used as an installed app. Next. Then we tested some of the current widgets to allow selection, filtering, etc. But some of them were small and difficult to reach. So we switched to a more thumb-friendly widget like buttons, select buttons, and choosing a sufficiently big dimension to tap them, but not to tap closer elements. We have then chosen the order accordingly to the hierarchy and ease of reachability with a single thumb. Next. In our view, the most important information should be the most visible ones. We started by deciding the priorities and then used the scroll to move from most significant to more specific, just by scrolling down. Of course, the filters and the chart we talk about were the two elements at the top. followed by the indicators and their related interactions. Finishing with a table with raw data in order to leave the user the opportunity to seek a specific day or data. Next, please. We were also in need to show multiple contexts in the same application, number of ill person and number of vaccinated ones, and the usage of tabs or bottom bar would have occupied too much space. We decided to use one of the hidden interaction we talked about.
Davide, Marco?
Just a few slides.
Marco, we have less than 4 minutes left, okay? Yeah, I want to get to a couple of questions.
Sorry, just give me a minute. To connect to the swipe to a different context. Swiping left, the view would be on infection. Swiping right, on the vaccination. This will be the final result. Please change the slide. Okay, as you can see, we managed to occupy all the available space using different hierarchies for the information and using the swipe as a secondary section. As you can see, the charts are changing slightly because of different data to be shown. Last slide, just to conclude. As you saw, our task was very specific, and that was our first occasion to work via a very mobile-first project. Let's say, we are always creating more cool-looking charts, but we are moving to a world where the data is more needed open, and the mobile world is every day more protagonist. With sharing opportunities like today, like our task, we hope we started giving some ideas, and we would like to collect new ones from everyone else in the future in order to create an all-around data experience community, also mobile. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Davide. Thank you very much for both of you. I have a couple of questions here. Does mobile equal mobile? The difference in screen size may be bigger between mobile and desktop than between tablet and desktop, or does it only depend on the way of scrolling? I think you were showing some of that yourselves, but if you could answer that briefly.
Marco, would you like, or there you go?
I think that, yeah, for sure, not all the mobiles are equal. I think you need to consider the resolution as an important aspect. So, of course, also in this case, we concentrated using for mobile intended as smartphones. So in our case, this was a project for smartphones optimized. So of course, yes, also there are some difference between smartphones, tablets, and desktop, but the main consideration that we made in this presentation are still valid. So for what I can say, I don't know if Davide want to add something.
As Marco said, there are different breakpoints. Everything in mobile world should be considering those different breakpoints. Breakpoints are done every year, and they are changing every year according to different mobile dimension. So they also considering tablets, and when you are changing your point of view to change the data visualization you're using, of course, you have to consider those different breakpoints. Our solution was quite easy. We needed just a smartphone as a target device. But if the case was different and we need to focus on different devices, for sure we will have to think about also that kind of different devices, taking in mind that the breakpoints will come at our help.
Okay, next question. How do you collect feedback from your users, and what do they like best about the key what are your key findings of that, if you do collect that information?
Okay, can I answer to this one, Marco?
Yes.
we didn't have many feedbacks from the user directly. Let's say that for the moment we are hoping that the final user was quite happy with that, because we saw on TV that he was using something to get some information, and it was using it in the landscape mode. So we hope that that can be a feedback to the usage of our product. Usually, we do take direct user experience feedback. So we try to gather all the information we can get from the final users. And we try to take them in consideration to optimize our next works.
Okay, next question. Are there already available data viz tools that already implement a mobile-first approach by default?
If they already exist, is the question, sorry?
Yeah, if they already exist, yeah, mobile-first approach.
Maybe yes.
Maybe I can answer. I think there are the current data visualization tools lacks some of the mobile first approach. So in our cases, we adapted our solution to work as a mobile first solution. So we are also starting to, we are moving to our next version of product. So we are thinking about implementing this type of mobile first approach in our product. So, and we hope also that also for other products, this would be a point of view to consider.
Mm-hmm. I guess, do you adjust the mobile version to a younger age group or everybody?
I don't think it's only for a younger group. I think that for all kind of users, because I think that there are some people that are not used to access information from desktop devices. So also elderly people, maybe they are not so confident to use desktop solutions. So maybe mobile is, I think it's for all the ages.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. And then another question about whether this will be downloaded, available somewhere. And yes, all the presentations over these 2 days are available, the presentations and the recordings as well. So please do keep that in mind. You can get that off the website. Let me move on now quickly. Thank you very much to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.